Tim Hudak wants to reduce our services, but he isn't telling us any of the details. Tim Hudak and the Ontario PCs, an agenda that hurts working families.
Big Labour makes their big power play. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. I warned you it was coming. The Labour movement in this country is embarking on a national version of Ontario's Working Families Coalition. The attack dogs that have gone after the Conservatives in the last several Ontario elections, effectively running a shadow campaign for the Liberals. They run the attack ad so the Liberals don't have to. Now, this is coming to the federal level, except it's going to benefit the Liberals or the NDP because they're both involved. Don Guy is a top Ontario Liberal, a man who knows a thing or two about working families, having been their pollster. He's one of the people involved in this new organization. So is Kathleen Monk, a former journalist and a former top aide to the late NDP leader Jack Layton. And according to Adam Radwanski, who broke this story in the Globe and Mail, their outfit, called Engage Canda, is well heeled. Let me quote to you from the beginning of the article. A group of high-level Liberal and New Democratic backroom veterans has collected millions of dollars from unions and other center-left interests to run a pre-election advertising campaign attacking Stephen Harper's Conservatives. Beginning on Friday, the group, which calls itself Engage Canda, will begin running television ads across Canada that target Mr. Harper's economic record and paint him as out of touch with middle-class priorities. We'll see how that works out. Their ad is out. It's been released online anyway, and it's a doozy. Actually, it's pretty bad. As a friend of mine who knows plenty about political advertising said, why are they opening with a graph?
Under the Harper Conservatives, inequality is skyrocketing. Income for the wealthiest 5% is increased 12 times faster than for the rest of Canadians. Now, in a faltering economy, the Conservative plan still neglects most Canadians. With no new investments for jobs, cuts to economic development, and a $36 billion cut to health care. With the Conservatives, you and your family just aren't in the picture. The Harper Conservatives, they won't be there for you.
Bad visuals for sure, and not a great effort, but it won't be their last effort. This is the first of many ads to come as Unifor and the United Steelworkers, an American-based union, work to unseat Stephen Harper's Conservatives and replace the Conservatives with Trudeau or Mulcair. Now, before I speak about the broader issue, let's look at the claims in this rather weak ad. What about this claim from the beginning, saying that the income for the top 5% has increased at 12 times the rate of the rest of Canadians? How did they get to that? Well, they claim you can fact check them on their website, so I tried. You click on the fact check and you get a vague reference to Stats Canada. Click on that and you get a fuzzy screenshot of a Stats Canada table. It's all very weird. Now, it took me a while to find the table that they cite on the Stats Canada website and then manipulate the data to get the same numbers they have. I did that, I finally got to that, but I still couldn't see how they arrived at their 12 times the rate. The median market income for the top 5% in 2006 was $121,700. In 2012, it was $144,600. That's an 18% increase over 6 years. What about the bottom? Well, they went from $18,900 in 2006 to $21,900 in 2012. That's a 15.9% increase. It's very close. So how did they get to 12 times faster? I couldn't figure that out. I did ask them. They didn't get back to me in time. And as far as I can tell, it's simply a false stat. Now, the rest of the ad complains there's no new investments in job training and there's cuts to economic development. Apparently, this group of Liberals and New Democrats fail to realize that it's the private sector, not government, that creates jobs, primarily at small business. And they end by claiming there's a $36 billion cut to healthcare. The only way you can honestly arrive at that is to assume that the federal government must always give the provinces whatever they want. Federal spending on healthcare, which I remind you is a provincial jurisdiction, has gone up and will continue to go up year after year. But the growth rate of that spending isn't what some premiers and what the opposition parties want it to be. So they claim it's actually a spending cut. It's increasing. I'm sorry. You want to know how you can tell that these are claims not based in facts? Well, when you fact check them, it's simply a series of media headlines, mainly from the Toronto Star or Toronto Star-owned papers. This is the first salvo from Engage Canda, an organization I'm happy to call a giant front for organized labor, although their spokesperson and my My friend and former colleague from Sun News, Jessica Hume, assures me that's not the case. She told me via email that they're simply a grassroots progressive group out to fight the many conservative super PACs that are operating across the country to protect conservative privilege. Check that. As for their funding, she wrote, Engage Canada has diverse sources of funding from more than 36 progressive groups, organizations, and individuals. We are grateful for our labor support, but it would be inaccurate to characterize Engage Canada as solely union-funded. No, not solely union-funded, but mainly union-funded. I mean, if their money doesn't come from Unifor or the American-based steelworkers or some other trade union, then it likely comes from the union-funded Broadbent Institute or other groups. Engage Canada can talk all they want about conservative super PACs. We know that the big spend ahead of this election will be from the left, from union groups especially. And grassroots? Give me a break. Don Guy and Kathleen Monk are not grassroots folks. Neither is Brian Topp, who was involved in this before he headed to Alberta to be NDP Premier Rachel Notley's Chief of Staff. These folks are going to be flooding the airwaves all summer until the election is called and the spending limits kick in. Here's the rub for the Liberals taking part in this exercise. They could end up electing Tom Mulcair. The latest numbers from pollster and Liberal donor Frank Graves at Ecos put Mulcair out in front nationally and Trudeau in third spot with public support in the low 20s. I normally dismiss anything Graves puts out as just Liberal propaganda, but if the best he can put the Liberals at is low 20s, that tells you something is not working out for the Liberals. It might work out for Mulcair with a lot of help from his union friends.